Hey, what's up, you guys, and welcome back to the Televised Podcast. My name is Anna, and today we're going to be talking about Supergirl Season 6, Episode 2, titled A Few Good Women. And it was fine. A lot of people were really underwhelmed by this episode, but genuinely, I mean, it had its good moments, but it also wasn't like, I mean, it wasn't going to win any awards. To me, personally, it felt like a pretty classic second episode where, okay, we have to try out the easiest answer first, and we have to set up quite a few things for the rest of the season to progress forward. So I wasn't super mad about it. I wasn't super mad at it. There was only one thing that I was so upset at, and I will be talking about it later, but it's specifically related to Dansen and Kelly, specifically. Because, of course, they still are just, like, absolutely treating them, and Kelly especially, like an afterthought, and I just hate it so much, and I feel so bad for Ozzy and all of this, and it just feels shitty, and especially after that statement from Jessica and Robert, it's not good, but I'll talk about that later. I don't know. Like I said, this episode was underwhelming, but it didn't like offend me in any way beyond just being not super great. I mean, a lot of people had some qualms about like Lena not really showing that she cares about Kara, but the reality is that at the end of the last episode, Lena was like she left, and she was ultimately just like separated from the Super Friends, because when Kara's not there, Lena's not really like just like a part of it. She can't just like come over, you know, like they don't trust Lena as much as Kara trusts Lena. They trust Kara, who trusts Lena, but with Kara absent, they were like, yeah, see you later. Especially after that distrusting look that Alex and Jean gave Lena, you know, in that final scene of them all together. And it just, I don't know, for me, I don't expect Lena to immediately become a part of the Super Friends, because she has so much trust to earn back at this moment, and especially without Kara there to really like vouch for her, the rest of them don't really have like this super strong connection to them. Because I mean, yes, she was a part of their friend group, but I mean, she was more like Kara's like best friend than like really anybody else's. I mean, Brainy, and which we in the promo pictures for 603, we see Brainy is the one who ultimately ends up reaching out to Lena, and that to me makes the most sense because she was really close with Brainy, probably the closest with like Brainy, and then Alex, and then the rest of them. But for me though, like I said, I wasn't too bothered by that. I didn't think it like, you know, was like a huge mistake or anything for them to not include it, especially, I mean, you know, not include like a moment of Lena being like, oh, you know, what about Kara? Because I mean, the way that they all acted, and especially as we get into the episode, they all really genuinely thought that Kara would just like be back. Okay, and also really quick, because people were like, the timeline of this is so confusing. Normally, in between Supergirl episodes, there's about a week of time that has elapsed between Supergirl episodes, unless otherwise stated. I think maybe this one, there would be a shorter amount of time, because at the end of the last episode, they said that Magan was already, like, on the case trying to find this other alien, so maybe it was only, like, a couple of days. And then I think that this episode took place over the course of a couple of days, because of the nature of the trial that happens in this episode. So I think the timeline really is that probably by the end of this episode, Kara has been in the Phantom Zone for like a week, maybe, you know, like a week or maybe a week and a half, probably. I'm just kind of guessing here, but that's what I think. It's like maybe about like a week or so. And also really quick, I do want to address, obviously, this is the start of the season 6 storylines, of the season 6 storytelling, and it was meant to be the premiere episode. But the thing is that a lot of people, I think, don't really understand is that just because they had a finale and they had it written as a finale, they still changed that finale for 601 to make it feel, yes, it felt like a finale because they had to wrap everything up, but everything else about it kind of felt like a premiere, you know? But for this episode, they're not going to write an episode that feels like a premiere for their second episode. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't just going to, because as far as like the show's canon is concerned, this was the second episode. Like, they're not going to treat it like a premiere just because of the way that COVID messed up their season. They're gonna write it like it's a second episode, and that's what they did. So I wasn't mad at them for that either, because people are like, oh my god, imagine if they'd started the season with an episode like this. They would have done it differently. Like, it wasn't written like a premiere, it was written like a second episode. So that's all. I just wanted to like get that all out there. Also, you might notice that this is a Saturday instead of a Friday. So I am going to be moving the Supergirl recaps to Saturdays instead of Fridays, just because it works out so much better for my schedule. Happy Saturday. Here we go with 602, A Few Good Women. So the episode starts out with these super friends going to find that alien, like I mentioned, who's the only guy that has ever entered and escaped the Phantom Zone that they know of. Like, that he went in and then came out, you know, and he was able to figure it out. They don't really know of anyone else who's been able to achieve this. So they find him, and he's at the Luther Hospital, like in some kind of like blood bank wing, and he is a vampire alien, which is actually pretty cool. He's from the planet of Transylvania, which, okay. But they say that is where vampire stories come from, that his planet is where vampire stories originated from. And he's like, look, I don't kill people. I'm not violent. I just rob blood banks. Like, let me go. And they're like, oh, we're not here to arrest you for that. We're just gonna ask you a few questions about the Phantom Zone. And it was a really kind of cheesy and campy scene, and I really liked that, because at one point, like, Brainy has like a pun that he throws out there. The vampire guy turns into a bat, and he like bangs against John's chest and then like turns back into his like alien self. It was really good. I'm like, that is incredible. So then we get a glimpse of Kara, and she is in the Phantom Zone, and her forehead is out. I was so excited about that. She's got her forehead out, no bangs. And I guess there's no explanation on that one. I'm fine with that. I'm good with just having the bangs disappear. So she's in the Phantom Zone, and she kind of like wakes up, and then there's all these phantoms around her. These really, really, really creepy, like, alien guys. They kind of look like Talos in Captain Marvel. I can't remember their species name. The Kree. They look like Kree. And they're super creepy. Talos was nice, but these guys are creepy as hell. Anyway, so then we go back to the tower, because it's just kind of like a terrible glimpse at Kara's like nightmare experience that she's having, and then we end up going back to the tower where and okay, first of all, the tower set looks so sick, and I'm so mad that we don't get to have this set for longer, because it's so cool. There's this like huge training room, there's a cool new lab, and like there's all kinds of cool stuff, and there's even like a little arcade video game in there. I'm like, guys, this is so sick. Why were we at the DEO for so long? Why were we at the DEO for so long when you could have had this really cool super layer at your disposal? Anyway, though, so the super friends, they take Silas, which is the vampire gay alien, back to this tower, and he tells them that his husband was the one who got sent to the Phantom Zone for a crime that he didn't commit, and he actually ended up trying to break him out, but he failed. He says that the phantoms feed on fear, and they take your worst nightmare and they show it to you, and they do that, and And it ultimately just like will drive a person mad. They like, it's like they make your nightmares manifest in front of you, and that's what you see, and then it drives you mad. And so his husband went mad, and he couldn't get him out, and he couldn't, take him back. And they end up like, they're like, look, I know that you said it didn't work, that you couldn't get him out, but can you please try again? We have a Supergirl that is in the Phantom Zone, and we need to get her out like really bad. And he ends up agreeing to try and help them out, because I think he understands they kind of appealed to him through a use of, this is somebody that we love, help us save someone that we adore and that we love. Even though you couldn't save your husband, like, you can save Supergirl, and then you'll know that you did it for your husband, in your husband's name. You have helped us through him, and have kind of, given him a legacy or whatever. And when all of this is over, and they are convinced, he is convinced to help them, Brainy ends up pulling Dreamer aside, and he's like, look, we're gonna need you to be the one to sense, basically, like, put out her little dream feelies into the air and sense for where Kara is in the Phantom Zone, so that we can find her. And I need you to train. I need to help you train right now. So that is what they end up setting up right there. But in the middle of that, before they can actually start training, Nia gets called back to Catco. So then we see this like Catco scene, and again, I know I said this last time, but I mean it. Andrea is just like a cheap Cat Grant at this point. She's like, we need to make Catco like the next, like, we need to save Catco. It needs to be the big thing. It needs to be this. It needs to be. I'm like, Queen, what are you talking about? It's like. Like, she's like, I want to be the leading news source, the #1 source for everything Lex Luthor. And it's just like, I don't, like, she's just doing a cheap Cat Grant impression, and I just hate it. I hate it so much. And I wish that I could like her character, but I just don't. But anyway, so she tells Nia, though, that, okay, since Kara's out, with Cat Grant, quote unquote, with Cat Grant still working on this story, you need to work on this story. She's like, I'm gonna give you Kara's job because she's not here to do her job. Don't know how Kara hasn't gotten fired yet, but anyway, even though, I mean, I don't know. Anyway, so Nia all of a sudden gets to be a reporter, even though for the past like 3 seasons she has not really been a reporter. Anyway. So she gets to be a reporter, but then she sticks William with Nia, and she's like, look, you guys need to cover this as much as you can. I need every single bit of information. I need you to get in that courtroom. And William is like, they're not even letting the jury in the courtroom. What are you talking about? They're all over Zoom because they need to be protected. And it's like, guys. Oh my god. So apparently they have the jury hidden in a different, safe, secure, secret location, and they're calling in via Zoom to the trial. And that's their explanation for why they didn't have a bunch of extras on set that day. Anyway, but William and Nia kind of say, look, how the hell are we supposed to do this? I don't know what you mean. But Nia kind of like pieces out. She's like, okay, we'll go to the courtroom, and William kind of follows. And then, but then we go to the jail where Lex is, and they let Lillian and Otis in to see Lex, even though he's obviously like a $1 billion bail kind of person, and like maximum security prison. And they let them in anyway, and they're talking about their plan, and Lillian is like, listen, I don't really give a shit about you. I give a shit about the Luthor name. You are besmirching the Luthor name, and you need to just take a guilty plea right now. And Lex says, you know, you sound like my lawyer, of which I just fired. And so that's how we find out that, of course, Lex is going to be a total sociopath and represent himself on trial, which ends up working in his favor. But anyway, so then back in the Phantom Zone, we end up seeing Zor-El. And Kara, I really like this. I like this a lot because it's a lot of people kind of pose theories that it's not really Zor-El, that it's actually already the Phantoms getting to Kara and projecting Zor-El for her. But it's still a really interesting story that they're doing with this because, like, the thing is that over the course of the series, Kara has learned so many horrible things about her dad, about how he was really a part of the reason that the planet was destroyed, how he created Myriad to mind control people, how he did all of this stuff. But still you could see it in her face, how just kind of like happy she is to see him. Because, I mean, when you're Kara and your whole family is dead, or, I mean, Argo is like far away in space and you can't see them for whatever reason. When your whole family is gone and dead, and or at least you have believed that your father is dead, how do you react to see them again, even though you know what he's done, the horrible things that he's done? And it's, I don't know, it's just really, really interesting to see, because he ends up like, he saves her, and it's, I don't know, it's just a really, he saves her from the Phantoms, and he basically says that after he sent, he did something to save Argo, I don't know, I don't remember the logistics, after he did that, and after he sent Kara and Cal in their pods, he tried to like jump himself somewhere else to like save himself, but he ended up bamfing into the Phantom Zone. And he basically says, he's like, listen, I kind of exiled myself to an eternal hell trying to escape death. And he's like, I wish I'd just died in on Krypton. And then they're talking about the Phantoms and kind of the stuff that we already know, just about how they project your worst nightmares in front of you. And Kara says, look, I saw everybody I've ever loved die in front of me. Everybody was dead. But then she's like, it wasn't really a nightmare. Like, it wasn't something that they created. It was something I'd already seen. Which then was like, okay, well, what scene was that? But I'm just not even going to mess with that. We all know that the Supergirl staff doesn't know anything about continuity, especially after Crisis, so I'm just going to ignore anything about that. And Kara is extremely determined, though, in this scene. She's like, I'm gonna get back. I don't care what you say. And he's like, you can't leave. We can't even leave this cave because the Phantoms will attack us. Like, I don't know what you're not understanding about this. And Kara's like, well, I'm not gonna give up. The House of El deserves better than to have both of us stranded here in this place. So anyway, now that we're back on, we go back to Earth, and then we see Alina having a conversation with Andrea, and they're talking or whatever, and Lena's like, oh my god, it's so nice to have a friend to talk to. And then Andrea's like, well, Lena, how would you want to do like a little interview? Like, and Lena's like, oh my god, I can't believe you. I thought that I had a friend, but turns out that all I have is somebody who wants to ask me for interviews. And then she like storms out. It was kind of melodramatic. It was crazy. And it's just, I mean, it's the kind of like, for me at least, like the vibes between the two of them are so just like frenemies, you know. They don't trust each other. They're both a bit backhanded with some of the things that they say. And I mean, I'm sure that Lena at the moment was like sincerely thought that they were going to have like some kind of productive conversation about, moving on and like moving forward with their lives after all of this terrible stuff has happened. But nope, Andrea had some other goals in mind, and Lena kind of feels betrayed in this moment because she's like, oh my god, all you see me for is a connection to Lex, is a headline, is a this, is a that, whatever. And I don't know, for me definite like frenemies vibes, because I don't know, I feel the tension, but it's not a good kind of tension. It's like a bad tension. Back at the tower though, so they're going through Silas is kind of like trying to get his shit to work, but he keeps like blasting like terrible energy, like gun, like it's almost like he's made like a portal almost. But it's like turned into a gun just because he hasn't quite figured it out yet. And he ends up telling them that the last time that he tried to get into the Phantom Zone, it took him 6 months of just testing before he was ready to like send somebody through it. And he's like, I'm not going to rush and like get any of you killed because I can't personally handle that, because I already think that I got my husband killed or I ruined my husband's life. I can't send somebody through this without like months in the future. And Alex is not having that. Jean is not having that. They're all being mean to this little gay alien guy. But Kelly ends up talking to him, and this is a really great moment for Kelly. And like I said last time, I love it when they let Kelly talk. I love it when they let her talk. She tells him that instead of being scared about like doing this portal, that to think about the love that he has for his husband, and like says that this is kind of a repeat thought, but they kind of tell him that like, hey, you can do so much good. You could be a hero if you help us out, if you help us save Supergirl. You can help the whole world, basically, all in the name of your husband, all in the memory of your husband. You can have that all on his name and in your name, and it will all be okay. And we can give you the time that you need. Kelly is like, she's so good at de-escalating the situation. Honestly, in this moment, I'm so glad that she is a part of the Super Friends, because honestly, like Jean and Magan, or sorry, not, because Jean and Alex, Magan ends up talking to Jean in a minute. Hold on. No. Jean and Alex, they're so hot-headed about this whole thing, which, I mean, obviously I understand, because Alex is like, I need to get my sister back like ASAP, and they thought that it would be something that they could just easily do, but it's something that is clearly way over their heads and much more than they expected. And Magan ends up talking to Jean, who at the same time is also being super duper hot-headed. And Magan is like, look, you already lost 2 of your daughters. Do not risk another one of your daughters, just, another one of the people that you see as your daughter, because you are impatient and you're being reckless. Because he's like, we need to get Kara out of there. And she's like, yes, but you can also risk Alex's life, Nia's life, Kelly's life, Brainy's life, your own life. You could risk all of our lives, and for what? It might not even work if we rush this. And I love Magan. She's so level-headed. I mean, in the same way that I think Kelly is, I love that they have such calming and level-headed perspectives in this moment. And I think it especially worked so well in this episode because everybody is so high-strung. And it's just really sweet to see Magan and Jean both kind of acting. They act like, little parents. They're space parents. They're my space parents, and I love them. So then we actually cut to the trial itself. It's the people versus Alexander Luthor, not Lex, because his name is Alexander. And first to the stand is Eve, and she gives this like super damning testimony, basically saying, that Lex, she basically breaks down the whole thing. She tells the jury everything that she saw because she was there for the whole entire plan. But then Lex, who, like I said, is representing himself, gets up to cross-examine the witness, and he says that Eve is in love with him or was in love with him, and that he rejected her, which did happen, to be fair. But it's just like he basically painted her to seem like a bitter ex, that a terrible woman who, because he wouldn't be in love with her, that now all she wants to do is take him down, and it's just she has a vendetta against him. That's what she ends up being painted as to the jury, and it's seen as this like super huge blow because he's like throw her testimony out, and that was like the only thing that they had against him was Eve's testimony. And Lena is watching, and she kind of realizes that she is going to be forced to testify, kind of like the way that Andrea had had said that she probably should in the beginning of this episode. So then Lillian actually ends up showing up at Lena's apartment while she's watching this whole thing go down. And I mean, I know I talked about last week that Lillian is like straight up evil, but she is. She is straight up evil, and she's like, look, your brother is besmirching the Luthor name, but now that he's winning, he's not besmirching the Luthor name, because if he wins, then he'll just, be the Luthor that won the trial, and it'll be good for us. And she tries to say, Lena, if you testify, you're only harming the Luthor name. You're not a true Luthor. You're going against your family by testifying against Lex. And Lena's like, Lex needs to be in prison. I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, what good is the Luthor name if all it represents is like evil and villainy and all of this stuff? Even if nobody else knows it, Lena's like, I know it. I know what it represents if this is what you're talking to me about, and if Lex gets off scot-free. And Lena says that she wants to be the one good Luthor to do good. And it's so sad because it's like she's literally been saying that since season 2. And I just wish that they would pick a new storyline for Lena. Pick a new storyline, because it just, she's been going in circles and circles and circles trying to rehabilitate the Luthor name. And they let Lex do it first. First of all, they let Lex rehabilitate the Luthor name before Lena ever could. And it just... like her mission for literally the whole entire series has been to rehabilitate her last name. And I just wish that they would let her either do it or break away from the family. And I hope that that is her storyline going forward, because she ultimately ends up deciding to do what is right no matter what happens to her. Because Lillian is like, look, what if you are incriminated in this too, because you were there the whole time? And Lena's like, I don't care, I just need to do good. So back at the tower, we see that training scene that we were robbed of earlier in the episode. Nia is like, she's like, look, it was impossible to get away from William, so that she's like running back to the tower, and Braini's like, it's fine, let's go. And I mean, you know what? It being impossible to get away from William is exactly how I feel, but it's fine. But they train together, super fun, super great. Nia, she does show a bit of apprehension. She's like, look, when you were dying in the Leviathan ship, I had such a hard time finding you that I don't know how I'm supposed to do this. She's like, I thought that our like love and our relationship was what was tying us together, and I think that is true, and I don't know how I'm supposed to connect to Kara in that way. And he basically sets up this like training simulator in this really cool training arena. I mean, like I said, this tower set is sick. And so he like sets this whole thing up. It's meant to directly simulate exactly what the Phantoms would be like and what the Phantom Zone would be like. Fully like land of nightmares, terrible, horrible place. And Nia... So she goes into the simulation and she tries to do it, and we get like, she like projects this like big sign that says Midvale High School, and it's like, okay. And then we see like young Alex and young Kara being like projected into the Phantom Zone, I guess as a way to reach out to Kara. But then she gets like blown back by the the phantoms, they end up like infiltrating her mind and she can't focus and she like steps out of it. And that's when really she's like, I can't do this. I literally cannot do this. I am not strong enough and I don't have my mother or my sister to teach me how to do this. So I'm just on my own and I don't know how to get better. And Brainy, he really reassures her, and I love that they have this moment. It is such a good moment, and they end up talking about Kara, and he says that she's our beacon through the darkness. He talks about how that Nia doesn't just know Kara as Supergirl in that in the legendary sense, because he says in the Legion of Superheroes, all we had was her legacy and her legend. We didn't know Kara, we only knew Supergirl. And he says, you have the privilege of knowing Kara, and you have the privilege of saving Kara, not Supergirl, but Kara, our friend, the person that cares about you and that we care about so much back. And that was such, I love that moment. It was such a good moment, and I think it really like emphasized exactly how important Kara is to the Super Friends and what kind of person Kara is, because she truly does inspire hope in every single person around her, and I love that. And he tells her that she is the reason that this plan is going to succeed. And I think, honestly, with the way that we saw those Midvale scenes, I wonder if, because everybody's kind of had these theories about, for the two Midvale episodes, Prom Night and Prom Again, I think if they end up traveling back in time, it might be to get to know Kara a bit better so that Nia can like really tap into that part of Kara's life and call to her that way and find her that way. And I think that'd be really cool. So I did really like how this episode kind of feels like a love letter to Kara, and it just like I said, kind of showcases how the team truly loves her and how the team like really works together. And so then Kara, back in the Phantom Zone, she waits until her dad is asleep and she goes out, and immediately phantoms like attack her, and her father wakes up and he has to drag her back to the cave. And as soon as she like wakes up again, she's ready to like run back out, but her dad is like, I lost you once, I'm not gonna lose you again, especially to these damn phantoms. And she is like, look, you are not the man that I remember. How are you so beaten? How are you so defeated? And he says that it's because the phantoms beat it out of me. He says they have made me a shell of who I once was. He's like, you're right. I'm not the man you remember. And it's because of this place, and I'm not going to let this place do that to you. And he says that strength does not matter here, and it's a fight that she cannot win at all. And Kara does not like that. Does not like that answer, that idea. And she says that she is going to escape this nightmare, and she's going to try a little bit and a little bit and a little bit every single day until she can get back to her friends and to her family. And she says that the House of L is made for much more. So then back in National City, we have Lena. She storms into that courtroom. She looks incredible. And she's like, I'm your witness. It's like, okay, queen, come on now. And she is ready to testify to every single thing that she saw Lex do. And she says all the stuff that she's like, look, I created Nana Cherry, but it was for not necessarily mind controlling people. It was to make people love each other, you know. We can move on from that, though. Lex, though, he took my technology and he made everybody love him with it. Super duper bad guy over here. And so the lawyer for the people, you know, examines Lena and says all of that, and Lena basically like sets it all up, and then Lex, it's his turn to cross-examine Lena, and he kind of loses it. He kind of goes absolutely bonkers because Lena knows exactly how to push his buttons, and I loved that. She got a real like kind of checkmate moment on him in this scene, because he he was like trying to drag Lena into it, and he was like, look, you know, you have done all of this stuff and you're trying to put it on me, and she's this bitter sister who blah, blah, blah. It was just like, ugh, it was so gross. And like, he could not resist to just like rail in on Lena, you know? And I just, ugh. And it's because she knows that was the reaction that she wanted from this. And during this scene, there was like a million cuts to William watching the trial, and that shit was so stupid. Like, welcome back to William's YouTube reaction channel. Watch me react to the Lex Luthor trial live, emotional, not clickbait. Like, that's literally exactly what it was. It was so stupid. And it was like, what is the point of this? Why are we cutting away from the importance of what is happening to see this dumb man react, literally sitting in Catco because his bitch ass couldn't get into the damn courtroom, and he couldn't get close. He couldn't do anything that he actually was told to do. So he's literally just sitting in Catco watching it. It was so stupid. And it just like, I mean, sure, I guess like if they wanted us to see like how the audience was feeling, but I think we all know as the audience how we're feeling and how we would react to this testimony, how we would react to this trial, you know? I don't think we needed that audience insert in this moment literally at all, and it just felt so stupid. And at the end he like cheered, and it was like, why are you cheering? It didn't read right, because it read like he was cheering for Lex because it was the end of Lex's testimony, and he's like, and if they want me to apologize for that, I'm not gonna. And William was like, yeah, exactly, woo, yeah. And it's like, what are you talking about? Oh my god. And anyway though, so like, it just, bleh, yeah. But back at the tower, so Silas is like, okay, I've got it figured out, I think. And he presses the button, opens the portal, but it does not look like how the Phantom Zone had looked when Brainy like mapped it out. Turns out Crisis fully cracked the Phantom Zone into like many different different kind of phantom zones. There's like multiple phantom zones now. Turns out Nightmare times 10. And he's there. Then these phantoms come flying out of the damn portal because it's still open while they're trying to figure all this out. They come flying out. The Super Friends team up to fight him. Nia uses her really sick dream powers, and then Jean and Magan get in on it, and they think that they defeat all of these phantoms. During this fight, Silas had like breathed in this like, I don't know, the like bad breath of the phantoms, and we'll come back to that at the end of the episode. But I just, like, the whole time I was watching, I'm like, god damn, this poor gay alien needs a Super Friend funded vacation after all of this. Yeah, so anyway, the whole thing goes holy shit up in smoke, and the Super Friends genuinely realize that this is not gonna be easy. This is not gonna be easy to do. And Silas basically says, like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry that it didn't work, but I hope that you could save Supergirl before she absolutely, like, succumbs to these phantoms. And Alex is like, yeah, I hope so too. And anyway, though, so we see the verdict. We see the verdict of the trial. And Lex is not guilty, which I'm not surprised about, because of course Lex would not be guilty. It just, the whole thing, listen, this is what I was talking about before when I had said that Supergirl doesn't know how to do, they don't know how to incorporate political things into their episodes very well. With Batwoman, they are able to kind of like seamlessly integrate these storylines in a way that really makes sense. And because they make sense, they become so much more poignant. like all crows are bastards. Like that was such a big thing. Or like, you know, the storyline with Jordan or the storyline with the wolf spider and how those crows didn't get really anything except fired. And all of that worked out so well because it fit into the story, and it was done in a way that like made you super duper care about exactly what was happening, and it made it so much more poignant because it fit so seamlessly into what you were talking about, what the show was trying to say. You know what I mean? But for this, where it's like, Lex is not guilty because he's Trump, is like, oh my God, guys, it just, as the audience, it's frustrating to watch because we've had Lex for 3 seasons at this point as a villain. So it's the same thing over and over and over again. And of course he gets off scot-free. So it's over and over and over again where he's like getting away with all of this. And we've defeated him before, but he was revived. So it's like, why are we doing this again? And it just doesn't work as well as it should, because the audience is so sick at this point of Lex that as a villain, not even just, because we hate him and like they're doing a good job of making us hate him. Yeah, they are, but also because it's the same story over and over and over again. And it's just this like horrible commentary about Trumpism. And I mean, I get it. They have a character that like totally works for that. I understand why they'd want to do that, and fine. And I know that the payoff is going to be that he's going to either end up dead or in jail. So I'm cool with that. I'm ready to watch it all go down, but goddamn if I'm not so just absolutely sick of him. And at the tower, though, really everybody is like losing it, and they're all so mad. Brainy is like slamming things. Jean is mad. Magan is mad. And yeah, it's just it's not good. Not good. Oh yeah, and then back at Catco, Nia goes to Catco and she finds that Andrea does still believe that Lex is like totally evil and guilty, and she wants to keep running these stories about it, and Nia is like, you know, she's like, I know that we can change people's minds. But you know what? One thing that I thought was so crazy is at the tower is when Magan brings them all pizza and Brainy grabs it, but he picks it up literally sideways. I thought that was the funniest thing in the whole world. I'm like, literally, why did he grab it like that? Okay, but then we cut to Alex's apartment, and we see a bunch of Chinese food all laid out, and we see a little sign that says "Welcome home, Kara." And Kelly is there, and Alex is crying, and she's like, I didn't think that it would be so hard to get Kara back. Like, what am I supposed to do without my sister? And Kelly says, like, let's not give up just yet, you know, like we knew that this would be hard. We knew that this would be difficult. So let's just wait. And that scene was really sweet, and Kyler did a really good job, and so did Ozzy, and the emotional weight of it was really great. But they didn't show Alex telling Kelly that Kara was Supergirl. And it's like, that was so frustrating to me during this episode, that to see this scene of like, there's a sign on the table that says, you know, welcome home, Kara. And Alex says, you know, Kara, Supergirl kind of interchangeably throughout this moment. And obviously, you know, she's talking about Kara being gone in the Phantom Zone when she's talking about my sister is missing. And so for them to not even have the decency to have this scene of Alex telling Kelly that Kara is Supergirl, it was such a slap in the face. Like, okay, here's the thing. For all of season 5, we have all been questioning whether or not Kelly knows that Kara is Supergirl. That is something that has been a question on everybody's minds. But if they hadn't made a big deal about it in 601 of Alex specifically being like, oh my God, Kelly doesn't know. What am I supposed to tell Kelly? If they hadn't done any of that, then I would not have really batted an eye if during this episode they just had this scene. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have been mad, because I would have been like, oh, okay, so she knew all along, and it would have been fine. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been totally okay to have not seen all of that if they hadn't set it up as such a big deal in 601. And that was the sentiment, being angry, that a lot of fans have felt since Tuesday. And there was this article that The Wrap actually wrote where they talked to the showrunners about that specifically, and I'm going to read this quote. This is from Robert Rovner. It says, quote, "It was something that we had toyed about being able to do at the end of the first episode, but the story was we didn't have the time in that episode to achieve that. Because Kelly was fine with the news, we felt that we could integrate it into the story, and that their relationship, it was something that Kelly was going to be very supportive of and helping Alex cope with this. And some of it is explored in the next episode when Alex is having a very difficult time." And then Queller adds, "And I'll just add, we spent an entire season on when the news did not go well. We felt like we really played that conflict last season." But the thing is, I have so many issues with that. I have so many issues with that. First of all, so they said, okay, it was something that we had toyed about being able to do at the end of the first episode. So I will tell you exactly what scene I would cut to be able to add like a little tiny, even just like a cliffhanger, a little tiny cliffhanger. You could cut William being like, "Oh my god, Kara never even came to me to tell me she was gonna go missing." Like, what? You could have cut that. It was stupid. It was stupid to have that in there. You could have just cut that little shit out, and then there you go. You have a minute to like do like a little cliffhanger where like Alex comes home to Kelly in her apartment and says, just like walks in the door and says, "Kara is Supergirl and she's missing." And that would be perfect, because Kelly wasn't even there when Supergirl got sucked into the portal. So there's had to have been this entire conversation off screen. It was like, what? And I hate how they're like, the audience can just assume that Kelly was going to be fine with it. Like, why would we assume that? Why would we assume that Kelly was going to be fine with it? Yes, she is a therapist, and yes, she is like the sweetest character ever, but that doesn't mean she has to be okay and perfectly empathetic at every moment. She is allowed to be upset about things, and I think it would have been interesting if we had like a scene of her being like kind of pushing aside her emotions, the emotions that she's feeling of having this secret revealed to her, of her pushing aside her emotions of that in order to comfort Alex, because she knows that her girlfriend needs it and she's a good girlfriend to Alex. I thought that would have been infinitely more interesting than literally any of the shit that we got. And it's like, I hate that Queller said, "Oh, we saw all of that last season when it didn't go well." Well, just because it might go well doesn't mean that we don't deserve to see it. It was such a pivotal moment in their relationship, especially after you wrote the damn episode. You made it a big, I mean, she didn't write the episode, but she knows what happened in the first episode. You made it a big deal. You made the whole thing a big deal in the freaking first episode. You made it a big deal. Like I said, I wouldn't have had an issue with it. I wouldn't have batted an eye if I wouldn't have even thought to be like, "Oh my god, that scene is missing," if there wasn't a big deal made about it in 601. But there was a big deal made about it in 601. So for them to just like skip it entirely feels so icky and gross. And I wish that even just at the beginning of this episode, if they had been like, "Here's a little scene of them having a conversation," you know, or like if they had extended that conversation that they have at Alex's apartment, if they had just like extended it a bit more to kind of include the magnitude of this secret that they now share, this part of Alex and part of Kara and part of the family that Kelly now knows, I think it would have worked so much better, and they could have cut so many things in this episode, because all of those dumbass Catco scenes were so stupid, especially all the intercuts between William. If they'd cut all of those out, thought they'd have like a minute to add to the story, to add to Alex and Kelly and their progression and their relationship. And it just makes me so mad, and it makes me so sad for Ozzy, because she cares so much about Kelly and Dansen and Alex and representation, and she does her best. And I hope that they don't touch her script, because when her episode airs, I know that I just don't, they better not cut shit from that bitch. My God. So, okay, for the last couple of scenes, Andrea goes to Lena's apartment to apologize, and like she said, Lena's like, hey, you know, whatever, and Andrea was like, that was really good of you to like testify, and Lena's like, well, now I might be implicated in this whole thing, and I actually might go to jail. But Andrea ends up saying, look, I will make sure the world knows that Lex is a monster. And Lena's like, you know what? Me too. We're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that everybody knows exactly who Lex Luthor is. And that was like fun to see them. And I'm excited for Lena to have a friend outside of the Super Friends. Like she needs a friend. The girl needs a friend. And okay, yeah. And then Lillian goes to see Lex, and she's like, look, I'm so happy that you rehabilitated our name, whatever. But she also kind of is like, well, if Lena's on trial, then the Luthor name's gonna suffer. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's like, ugh, gross. I don't really care. Oh yeah, and so then Silas, remember when I said that he like inhaled some bad phantom breath? Well, apparently it was because it was living inside of his body, and it exited his body at his apartment, and he calls to Jean, but like it's not going good. So I'm sure we'll see more of him and his haunting and possession next episode, which I feel so bad for this guy. Those Super Friends really were like, yeah, we're gonna make sure that this guy we're gonna torture this guy. We're gonna just he's gonna be tortured, and not on purpose, but anyway. So anyway, in the end, in the Phantom Zone, Kara and her dad, they go through and they are kind of like sneaking around, and they watch as there's this like portal opens and the phantoms fly through it, and turns out it was when her friends were trying to save her, I guess. I guess that's what they wanted it. I don't know, but they say that the portals really only open long enough for a phantom to fly through them, so they need to catch a phantom. So that'll be fun next episode to see Kara catching a phantom with her dad. And I hope that in the next episode they talk about Kara, especially with all the focus on Myriad that we've had in the past couple of episodes, including the past, in season 5. I hope that Kara does kind of take this time to address that stuff with her dad, because I feel like she would, like, if they're just like sitting out and talking, she'd be like, listen, I know that you created Myriad. Why did you do that? Why did you kill our planet? Why did you do that? So I don't know. I'm excited to see exactly what, I don't know. I'm really excited to see what goes down with Kara and her dad. And I mean, like I said, this episode was kind of boring, and obviously I'm just enraged about Alex and Kelly, but they did say in the next episode Alex is going to be having a really hard time with Kara being gone in a more permanent fashion than she ever thought that she would be. And I'm excited to see, hopefully, some more progress in their relationship, and hopefully more scenes and more discussion on their end, because like I said, I think that they made a really huge mistake. I think that they really messed up this time when they cut that scene of Alex and Kelly. I think they really messed up. They really fucked it up, guys. And it just was not. It was horrible. And I don't know. I'm still for me personally, I don't think that this episode was any kind of like final nail in the season 6 coffin. Like I do not think that this episode was like the worst episode of Supergirl I've ever seen. I think it had some really great moments. The moment of Lena in the courtroom was really good. I loved the Brainy and Nia scene together. Anything that Jean and Megan do, I absolutely loved. Even the Kelly and Alex scene, even though like I said it was obviously missing something incredibly important, it still was really good and had a really strong emotional bond between the two of them, and Kyler did a really good job. And Kara and her dad, that stuff is interesting. It just wasn't a great episode, but I'm still feeling good about the next episodes, and I'm really excited for when Brainy and Lena get to work together next episode. So I'm just excited. I don't know. I'm still feeling good about the season. But one thing that I think is important is a lot of people have been expressing their dislike of them cutting out this like important Dansen moment, and I think it is a really good time to just like take to Twitter, at people, use hashtags, make your voice heard about the injustices that Dansen has faced in this show, because it's absolutely ridiculous, and it's time that we fight to end it. I mean, we have been, but it's just like, god damn. And I think that now is the most important time, because this article just came out and they're getting like roasted to death online. And I think that it's great to just keep making your voice heard, especially underneath their tweets. Any of the official Supergirl tweets, express your dislike for them cutting out that scene, because I just think it's important to make our voice heard in this moment, especially because the back half of the season is still being filmed and it's still being put together. So if we just keep showing that we like Kelly and we want to see more of her, then maybe things will change. I don't know. I hope so. But yeah, so that's all I have for this week. It's kind of a long one, but I did really want to like rant about Kelly and Alex. Let me know what you thought of this episode in the comments below, or you could tweet me at televisedpod. Let me know what you think. You can like, rate, subscribe, share, do all the things, and I will see you guys next week.